spring outfit inspo, and I'll show you how to restyle them for long and short torsos. If your torso isn't balanced and you're not dressing to correct it, it can throw your entire look off. My bad for being so dramatic. I just feel like sometimes I gotta rope y'all in, so you stay on the video and you don't click off. But how y'all doing? I'm good. Hope you're doing well. Today we are talking about spring fashion fixes for long and short torsos. So let's all get on the same page here. Now, usually I can eyeball and tell whether a torso is long or short or balanced, but not everything is that cut and dry. So I found this test on Google that we can do to figure out, whether the torso is long, short, or balanced. So let me demonstrate. All right, so this says to place one hand under your bust near your ribs, and then place your other hand below the fingers with your first pointing towards your hips. Observe where your belly button is in relation to the second hand. So I gotta put this down to, but let me read it first. If your belly button is covered by the second hand or just below it, your torso is likely balanced. If your belly button is higher than the second hand, your torso is likely shorter than average and your legs are relatively longer. If your belly button is significantly below the second hand, your torso is likely longer than average and your legs are relatively shorter. Okay, so let me stick this here so I can see this as I do it. So you place one hand under your bust, okay, right? That's my bust right there. Place your other hand below the first one with your fingers pointing towards your hips. Okay. Observe where your belly button is in relation to the second hand. Okay, my belly button is being covered by the second hand. So if your belly button is covered by the second hand or just below it, your torso is likely balanced or proportionate. Okay. Now, if your belly button is higher than the second hand, which this is the second hand down here. If your belly button is higher than that, then you likely have a short torso. However, if your belly button is significantly lower than the second hand, then you likely have a longer torso. Okay, hopefully that helped. That made sense in my head and, kind of when I did it, but, y'all let me know if that clicks for you at home. So according to that, my torso is somewhat balanced. But let's take some spring outfit inspo and I'll show you how to restyle them for long and short torsos. Make sure you also check out my dressing for your body playlist, because having a long or short torso can happen on any of the body shapes, and you're gonna need that information to kind of put everything all together. So let's look at some styles first that you might want to avoid, or that with some styling, you can make it work. Let's start with drop waist. Now, I have a balanced torso. I avoid drop waist because they kind of hit me in a weird spot and they kind of like throw the balance off in my frame. Like they throw me off so much so that I don't even have anything with a drop waist to show you what it would look like on me. But if you have a long torso and you're looking to balance it, I would either avoid drop waist, or you can use a belt to kind of change where the balance is. So if the waist on the garment ends here and it's making your torso look even longer, maybe you might have the belt come up a little bit higher. Although I still probably would avoid the drop waist altogether, because sometimes even when you belt something with the drop waist, it still looks a little weird. However, for my short torso babes, that drop waist can help to balance your shorter torso. But not all garments are created equally. But if you're trying to camouflage a bigger belly, a fupa, etc., and you have a shorter torso, I would avoid drop waists that have materials that cling to the skin, because that's actually going to emphasize a fupa, a bigger belly. Much like this blue dress, which by the way is also linked in the description box in case you were wondering. Now, hold that thought, because this is where the magic of lines comes into play. Think of them as invisible guides, like leading the eye and sculpting your form. I don't know about you, but every now and again, I like my form to be sculpted. So horizontal lines shorten and widen. So you wear them in areas where you want things to look shorter and wider. You avoid them in areas where you don't want things to look shorter and wider. Vertical lines lengthen and lean. You wear them in places where you want things lengthened and lean. You avoid them in places where you don't want things lengthened and lean. And diagonal lines divide. You wear them in an area where you want to create some division. You avoid it where you don't want any division. Remember, lines are formed in numerous ways. They're not just stripes, right? So you can have lines in hems, lapels, belts, jacket lengths, skirt lengths, shoe straps, etc. Now, if you're still following along, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, okay? Let's go ahead. Click that for me. A huge trend this spring is the Perigirl dress, also known as the tiered dress. Now, regardless if something is trending or not, doesn't, make us know never mind. However, when something is trending, that means it's more available for you to buy. So if this is your look, go in and let have. Now, so a tiered dress like this can create a silhouette where nobody's gonna know if your torso is long, if your torso is short. It's gonna help to balance it out. However, there are some caveats depending on, what other assets you got going on your body. But with this dress, because that top tier creates a horizontal line, it gives the illusion that that's where your waist is. So if you have a longer torso, this dress is already balancing you out. So if you're busty and you have a short torso, you can still wear these type of tiered dresses. Just look for ones where there's a longer space in the bodice before the tiers begin. Because otherwise, if the bodice is short and you have a short torso and you're busty, it can kind of make you look like you're stuffed into the dress. We don't want to look stuffed. We want to look long and lean. So this dress here is going to flatter you better if you have a shorter torso and a bigger bust. Or something like this where, okay, there isn't much of a bodice here. However, look at that space. Look how much space there is on that first tier. It elongates the torso. So it gives you more torso to work with if you already have a shorter torso, but also if you have a shorter torso and a bigger bust. Now, this outfit is cute, but on a shorter torso, it can make you look a little compressed, and even more so if you have a bigger bust. So a fix would be to switch these out for pants with a lower rise. Now, they don't have to be super low rise because, a lot of us been there, done that. But, just low enough so that it gives the illusion of a longer torso. Side note, lower rises can be pretty tricky if you have a bigger belly. So check out this video here for more tips. Now, if you're busty and you have a shorter torso, this sort of drop waist shift dress could be a contender. Oh my God, I love the way she styled this entire look. It also looks like this photo was shot at the greenhouse at the 9 Hotel, which I've been to for an event once or twice. No, twice actually. It's really beautiful up there and like so perfect for like pictures, but you gotta be careful like which angle you take them because there's just so much sunlight that if you, kind of take it this way, then you backlit, which we talked about tricks on how to look better in photos in this video here, so check that out, after you finish watching this video. Now with this look, because of the horizontal line that the belt makes here, it makes this dress better suited for those with longer torsos because that horizontal line is going to create the illusion that that's where your waist is. You could also rock this if you have a shorter torso because of the tiers. It's one of those outfits where it's like nobody really knows where your torso ends and your legs begin. However, because of the shortness of the bodice of this dress, if you also have a bigger bust and a shorter torso, it can make you look a little compressed. But if you're that shorter torso with a bigger bust, like I just mentioned, a dress like this would suit you better because it has an open neckline and a longer bodice. Now, if you have a shorter torso, a bigger bust, and a bigger belly, you want to make sure that you also look for dresses that don't press into the midsection, like this one and then like this one. And for timing's sake, the same rules apply if you're wearing a top and a skirt. So now let's look at some outfits that need little to no adjustments because the outfit itself is just creating that silhouette. A look like this creates a silhouette where it's like you don't know what's going on underneath. Like your torso can stop here, but it can also stop down here. Nobody's gonna know because the outfit is creating the shape for you. And there's enough of a diagonal line formed at the clasp where it can help to balance an apple or a bigger belly. It can also work if you have a rectangle shape and you want to give the illusion of having a defined waist without having to wear a belt. And then if you've watched the Outfit Formula series, you know that variations of that will also work. So something like this blue suit would work as well as this tan and beige one and this olive green one. Basically, when you create a silhouette with structured pieces, nobody has to know what all is going down with your torso length. Now, if you want to take things even further, you need to check out the Outfit Formulas for Your Body Type playlist. In it, I go over some time and money-saving outfit formulas that you can just throw on and are gonna look good every time. Click on it here and I'll see you there.